The night was quiet and the stars above Earth were shining like silver dust. In the small army base on the edge of the desert, soldiers were sitting around a fire, eating, laughing, and sharing stories. Among them sat Daniel, a young soldier with sharp eyes and a tired smile. He was known for his jokes, the kind of man who made others laugh even when times were hard. "Maybe one day I will get a wife," Daniel said, holding his metal cup like it was a trophy. "But knowing my luck, she will not be human. She will be some alien princess who comes from the sky." The soldiers laughed, shaking their heads. "Better hope she's pretty and not a monster," one of them shouted. Daniel grinned. "What if she is a vampire with fangs, drinking blood for breakfast?" Everyone burst into louder laughter, the kind that echoes in the night. But in that moment above the desert sky, something strange happened. The stars seemed to move, as if one of them was falling, but no, it was not a star. It was a ship, massive and silent, black as shadow, its edges glowing red like fire. The laughter stopped, the fire crackled, and every soldier lifted their heads. The air grew heavy, as if the whole world was holding its breath. Daniel's smile faded, his joke still fresh on his lips. The ship hovered above them, blocking half the sky. It was bigger than any building they had ever seen, like a mountain turned upside down. Sirens screamed across the base. Soldiers grabbed their weapons and commanders shouted orders. But no weapon on Earth could fight a ship like that, and everyone knew it. A voice broke through the air, cold and powerful, not spoken but felt inside their heads. "We, the Duskborn Warbrides, arrived to claim what is ours," the voice said. "By ancient right of blood, one warrior shall be chosen, and he will belong to me." The soldiers froze, their hearts pounding, their eyes searching the sky for the source, and then the spotlight fell, a beam of pale light shining down. It landed on Daniel, the one who had just joked about a vampire wife. His friends stared in shock, some even laughed nervously, thinking it was still a joke, but Daniel's body was trembling. His chest heavy, his hands shaking, he whispered, This cannot be real." The beam of light lifted him slowly from the ground as if invisible hands were pulling him upward. He kicked and screamed, but the light held him strong. "Daniel!" one of the soldiers shouted. "What is happening?" No one had an answer, because no one had ever seen something like this before. Inside the ship, the air was cold, smelling of iron and smoke. The walls were dark metal, carved with symbols that glowed faintly red. Daniel was dropped on a floor made of black stone. Before him stood a figure tall and terrifying. She wore armor of obsidian, sharp and beautiful, and her eyes glowed crimson. Her skin was pale like the moon. Her fangs glinted when she smiled. She was not human, she was the Warbride. "A queen of a forgotten race, you are mine," she said, her voice deep and echoing. Daniel's heart raced, his body stiff, his mouth dry. He tried to laugh, but the sound died in his throat. "This has to be some mistake," he whispered. "I was only making a joke." The Warbride tilted her head, her long black hair flowing like liquid shadow. "There are no mistakes," she said. "I have chosen, and when a Warbride chooses, the galaxy obeys." Daniel stood, trying to find his courage. He had trained for battles, for war, for guns and bombs, but nothing had prepared him for this. "How can I be yours?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I am just a man." The Warbride stepped closer, her red eyes never leaving his. Her presence was heavy, like standing before a storm. "You are more than a man," she said. "You are mine." Back on Earth, panic spread like fire. Government sent signals. Armies prepared weapons. Satellites turned their cameras to the sky. The people of Earth watched as the black ship hovered above them. News channels screamed of invasion. Priests spoke of prophecy. Scientists spoke of doom. But the truth was stranger than all their words. The fate of the planet had turned because of one soldier. Because of one joke about a wife. Daniel sat on the dark floor of the alien ship, his hands clenched, his heart pounding, his mind racing. He realized that his life was no longer his own. He was caught in something far bigger, far stranger than he ever dreamed. The Warbride stood tall before him, her fangs shining, her eyes burning. And Daniel whispered to himself, "This is how everything changes." Daniel's breath echoed in the cold chamber, his heart still racing from the beam of light that had stolen him from Earth. Around him, the walls of the ship pulsed like they were alive, strange symbols glowing as if they were veins carrying blood. He could hear faint whispers, not from people, but from the ship itself, as though it was whispering secrets in a language he could not understand. Every sound made his skin crawl. Every second reminded him that he was no longer safe on Earth. He was inside the heart of an alien empire. Then she stepped closer, the Warbride, her tall figure moving with the grace of a queen and the danger of a predator. Her armor was black as night, trimmed with sharp silver lines that seemed to drink in the light. Her crimson eyes studied Daniel like he was prey and treasure at the same time. She didn't need to speak for Daniel to feel her power. The air bent around her, heavy, suffocating. Yet strangely magnetic. You stand before Selvara, Warbride of the Duskborn, her voice thundered, echoing inside his bones. I have claimed you, human warrior. Your blood answers mine. Your fate is sealed. Daniel shook his head, his lips trembling. I am not a warrior. I am just a soldier, just a man. You must have made a mistake. Selvara's lips curled into a smile, sharp and terrifying. The stars do not make mistakes. When a warbride claims, destiny obeys. Daniel wanted to shout, to fight, but his legs felt weak, his hands cold. He thought of his friends back at the base, the way they laughed when he made the joke. Now the joke had become chains, and he was dragged into a story no human had ever known. But Daniel was not the kind to bow so easily. Somewhere deep in him, a spark of defiance burned. You cannot just take me, he said, his voice stronger now. I belong to Earth, to my people, not to you. The chamber grew darker as Selvara's smile vanished, her eyes narrowing. She stepped closer, so close Daniel could see the faint scars across her pale skin, scars that told stories of battles beyond imagination. Your people cannot protect you, she whispered, her fangs glinting. Your armies cannot fight us. One wrong word from me and Earth burns. Daniel's chest tightened. Fear clawed at him, but something inside pushed him to speak again. If you wanted to destroy Earth, you would have done it already, he said. You came for me, not for them. So why? Selvara paused, and for a moment, the silence was louder than thunder. Her eyes softened slightly, just enough for Daniel to notice. You are bold, human, she said slowly. That is why I chose you. Daniel's heart raced. But he held her gaze. He realized that maybe, just maybe, humor and stubbornness were his only weapons, so he forced a crooked smile. If you think I'm bold now, wait until you hear me argue about breakfast. For the first time, Selvara tilted her head as if confused, and then a faint, strange laugh escaped her lips. It was not a warm laugh, but it was enough to change the air in the room. Outside the chamber, massive windows showed the endless stars. Earth glowed in the distance, small and fragile against the black ocean of space. Selvara raised her hand and the walls shifted, opening into a balcony of steel that looked out over the cosmos. She stood tall, the galaxy bowing before her, and Daniel, trembling, followed. He had never felt so small, yet never so important. Far below them, more ships appeared, black arrows slicing through the void. Each ship carried warriors like Selvara, other warbrides with their crimson eyes and their cold hunger. They formed a circle around Earth, silent, waiting, a reminder that this was not just one alien queen. This was an empire, and Daniel was standing in the center of its storm. Selvara's voice cut through the silence again. My people see Earth as a cradle of new blood. Fertile, strong, perfect for our future, she said. But I see something different. I see fire in you humans. I see spirit. I see a man who jokes in the face of fear. Her words made Daniel's skin crawl. But they also planted a seed of doubt. Was she only here to conquer? Or was there something more behind her crimson eyes? Daniel clenched his fists, trying to find balance between fear and courage. If you really think I am special, then prove it, he said, surprising even himself. Do not treat me like property if you want me. Then face me as an equal. The words felt reckless, maybe even suicidal, but they burned bright. Selvara's eyes widened, and for the first time, her perfect mask of power cracked. An equal, she repeated softly, as if the word itself was forbidden. The chamber grew still, as if the ship itself was waiting for her answer. Selvara leaned close, her crimson gaze locked on Daniel. You will learn, human, she whispered, that in my world love is war, and war is love. Her fangs gleamed, her shadow stretched, and Daniel felt the weight of destiny pressing down on him. The Warbride had arrived, and Earth would never be the same. Daniel woke to the sound of heavy footsteps. The air inside the alien ship was colder than ice, and the walls pulsed faintly with red light. He rubbed his eyes and tried to make sense of his surroundings. Every surface seemed alive, the floor shifting as though it breathed beneath his boots. It was not just a ship. It was like a living creature carrying him into the unknown. And then the doors opened, tall and sharp like fangs. revealing Silvara, the Warbride. She walked with the calm grace of a queen who never feared anything, her long black cloak dragging behind her, her crimson eyes burning like two fires. Daniel stood, his heart pounding, yet he forced a grin. "Do you people even believe in breakfast?" he asked, his voice shaky but playful. Silvara tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "We do not waste mornings with food," she said. "We sharpen our blades. We prepare for blood." Daniel chuckled nervously. "Well, humans sharpen their coffee first. Without it, we're too weak to fight anyone." The Warbride blinked, not understanding. Yet something flickered in her eyes. Curiosity, Silvara led him into a vast hall, filled with alien warriors, all dressed in black armor marked with silver lines. They were tall, pale, with crimson eyes like hers, each carrying a long blade shaped like a crescent moon. They looked at Daniel with cold stares, some sneering, others whispering. He felt their hatred, their disbelief, as if they could not understand why their queen had chosen a fragile human. Silvara raised her hand. The hall fell silent. "This is the one I have claimed," she declared, her voice echoing like thunder. "He will walk among us. He will learn our ways, and he will prove himself worthy of me." The warriors snarled, their voices rising in protest. A human, weak, unfit, unworthy. Daniel's stomach twisted, but instead of bowing his head, he smirked. "Well, I'm sorry I don't glow red and carry a moon sword, but we humans have something better. We laugh, we love, we live." The hall roared with anger, but Silvara raised her hand again, silencing them, her eyes locked on Daniel. "You speak boldly, human," she said, "but boldness is not strength." Daniel crossed his arms, his voice calm but steady. "Maybe, but sometimes boldness is stronger than any blade." Her eyes narrowed, but her lips curved into a faint smile, as if she had not expected this answer. For days, Daniel was tested. He was forced to watch alien rituals, where warriors cut their palms and mixed blood in bowls of iron. Swearing loyalty with their veins, he watched duels where combatants fought until one collapsed, not from death but from exhaustion and broken spirit. The Warbride explained that in her world, marriage was not a bond of love, it was a contract of war. A wife was not a partner, she was a commander, and the husband was her weapon. Daniel tried to understand, but it felt wrong, alien, cruel. When she spoke of loyalty through blood, he thought of loyalty through laughter, through trust, through holding someone's hand when they were weak. When she spoke of power through fear, he thought of power through kindness, through protecting instead of conquering. And when she asked him why humans waste time with love, he answered simply, "Because love makes life more than survival." At first, she scoffed, her crimson eyes sharp as blades. "Weakness," she hissed. "Love makes you blind." "Love makes you fall," but Daniel did not stop. He teased her. He joked. He shared small pieces of earth, stories of silly fights between friends, of warm meals, of families who argued yet never abandoned each other, and slowly the Warbride listened. Not because she agreed, but because she was curious. She had lived her whole life in war, in blood and in fear, and here was a human who refused to bend to that world. One night, as they stood on the balcony of the ship, the stars burning like white fire around them, Daniel leaned on the railing. "You know," he said softly, "on Earth, when a man loves a woman, he doesn't own her. He doesn't command her, he chooses her, and she chooses him." Silvara's eyes flickered, her lips tight. "Choices are illusions," she whispered. "Power decides, blood decides, destiny decides." Daniel looked at her, his voice firm. "Maybe for you, but for us, choice is everything. Without it, love is nothing." Her face was unreadable, her red eyes shining. Yet something trembled in her voice when she said, "Strange human, your words are like weapons I cannot block." Daniel smiled. "That's because they are not weapons. They're just truth." For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy yet fragile, and in that silence, Daniel realized something. He had planted a seed inside her. She might never admit it, but her world of war was cracking, piece by piece, but the peace did not last. The next day, Silvara's clan demanded a trial. If the human was truly worthy, he must survive the path of shadows, a test that had killed many warriors. Silvara stood tall before her people, her crimson eyes glowing. "He will face it," she said, though her voice carried a weight Daniel could not name. The warriors cheered, their blades clashing, their voices like thunder. Daniel swallowed hard, his grin fading. "Why do I feel like I just signed up for the worst game show in the universe?" Silvara looked at him, her expression softer than before, and whispered, "Because this is the price of being mine." The Path of Shadows was not a place. It was a trial carved into the very bones of the Warbride's ship. Daniel followed Silvara down a corridor where the walls seemed to close in, alive with whispers and red light. Every step made him feel like he was walking deeper into the throat of some great beast. At the end of the corridor, two massive doors opened, revealing a chamber filled with warriors and elders, their eyes glowing like burning coals. They formed a circle, blades crossed, voices chanting in a language Daniel could not understand. Silvara stood tall at the center, her cloak spread like wings of shadow, her presence heavy and commanding. "This human will walk the path of shadows," she declared, "and he will prove himself to me, or he will die unworthy." The crowd roared, some with laughter, others with hunger. They wanted blood. Daniel swallowed, his throat dry, but he forced a smirk. "I really should have kept my mouth shut back at the fire pit." The first challenge began. The floor split open and pillars rose from the ground. Each covered in spikes and blades, Daniel was told to cross them without falling. While the warriors hissed and mocked, he stared at the deadly path, his knees weak. But then he remembered something. "Balance," he whispered, "like crossing the kids' playground bars." He moved carefully, wobbling, slipping, but instead of trying to look strong, he laughed at himself. 10 points for style, he joked when he nearly fell. The Warbrides watched, confused. They had never seen a warrior laugh at his own weakness. He made it across barely, but alive. The second challenge was combat. A duel with a warrior twice his size, his blade long and glowing with crimson fire. Daniel had no weapon, only his fists, his heart, and his humor when the warrior swung. Daniel ducked, stumbling, rolling on the floor. He picked up a broken piece of metal and swung it like a frying pan. "Dinner is served," he shouted. The crowd roared with laughter, not because they liked him, but because they had never seen combat turned into comedy. He lost the duel, bruised and bleeding, but he stood again, refusing to bow, and that to the Warbrides was a victory greater than strength. The third challenge was the hardest. The trial of blood. A bowl was placed before him, filled with dark liquid, the blood of past warriors he was told to drink, to prove loyalty through veins and sacrifice. Daniel stared at it, disgust twisting his stomach. But then he shook his head. "No, I won't," he said, his voice steady. The hall went silent, shocked. No one had ever refused the bowl. "You will insult our ancestors," an elder hissed. Daniel raised his chin. "On Earth, loyalty is not proven by blood spilled. It's proven by the choices we make, by standing with each other, by protecting one another." His words struck like lightning. Strange and unwelcome, yet impossible to ignore. Silvara's crimson eyes locked on him. Her expression unreadable. Part of her wanted to strike him down. But another part, a small hidden part, wanted to understand. The hall erupted with anger. But Silvara raised her hand, silencing them. "This human speaks with fire," she said, her voice low. "And fire does not bow." The crowd fell into uneasy silence, their hate clashing with a strange respect. Later, Daniel was taken back to the chamber, his body aching, his spirit heavy. Silvara stood by the balcony, the stars behind her like an endless sea of light. "You refuse the blood," she said coldly. "That is an insult to my people." Daniel limped to the railing, his voice tired but firm. "I didn't come here to pretend to be you. I came here as me, and if that's not enough, then I guess I fail." Silvara turned, her eyes sharp, but her voice softer than before. "You are either the bravest fool I have ever met, or the most dangerous." Daniel grinned weakly. "Why not both?" The clash between them grew sharper each day. Silvara showed him alien traditions, rituals of war, feasts of iron and shadow, dances where blades clashed instead of hands holding. Daniel showed her human ways. He taught her simple earth jokes. He mimicked clumsy dance steps. He told her about weddings where people cried with joy, not with pain. Sometimes she scoffed. Sometimes she laughed without meaning to. Sometimes she simply stared as if she had never imagined such a world. One night she asked him quietly, "Why do you smile even when you are weak?" Daniel looked at her, his voice steady. "Because smiling tells the world it hasn't beaten you yet." Her eyes glowed. Her lips parted, but she said nothing. For the first time, Silvara felt something she could not control. Not fear, not rage, not hunger, but something softer, something human. Yet outside their fragile bond, her people grew restless. Whispers spread through the halls that the Warbride had been weakened by the human, that her throne was at risk. Some demanded Daniel's death. Others demanded Earth's destruction. Silvara knew her clan would not wait forever, and Daniel knew his time was running short. The clash of cultures was no longer just between two people. It was between two worlds, and soon one world would have to bend or break. The hall of the Warbrides trembled as the elders announced the final test. Daniel stood in the center, bruised, tired, but still standing, his hands shaking yet his eyes refusing to look down. The warriors surrounded him in a circle, their blades scraping against the stone floor, their crimson eyes glowing with hunger for his failure. Silvara stood at the edge, her cloak flowing like shadow, her face carved in ice, though deep inside, something else stirred, something she dared not show. "The trial of worthiness begins," the eldest Warbride declared, her voice sharp as steel. "If this human survives, he is more than prey, more than a joke. He is a warrior. And if he fails," another elder hissed, "his body will feed the stars, and Earth will be reminded of its weakness." Daniel forced a grin, his voice dry but steady. "No pressure then. Just my life and the future of my planet." The floor shifted, stone blocks rising and falling, forming a maze of jagged walls. Dark mist filled the air, and from the mist shadows crawled, creatures with crimson eyes and twisted claws. They were not alive, not fully, but creations of the ship, born from blood and memory. Daniel's stomach turned, but he clenched his fists, whispering, "All right, Daniel, it's just like a nightmare, except real." The creatures lunged, their claws scraping against the walls. Their teeth snapping, Daniel ducked, rolled, grabbed a broken shard of stone and swung wildly. He was no great warrior, no hero, but he fought with desperation. With stubbornness, with the will to keep moving. One claw sliced his arm, blood running hot down his sleeve, but he refused to fall. "Is that all you've got?" he shouted, laughing through the pain. "My grandma hits harder than you." The crowd roared with anger and surprise, their chants echoing like thunder. But Silvara's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Daniel saw something flash inside them: pride. The maze twisted again, walls collapsing, forcing him deeper. He stumbled into a chamber where a single blade floated in the air. Glowing faintly red, a whisper filled his head. "Take it, drink its power, become one of us." His hand trembled as he reached out, but then he pulled back. "No," he muttered. "That's not my way. I don't need your cursed blade to prove myself." He walked past it, empty-handed, bruised and bleeding, but unbroken. The trial did not end. The walls opened again, revealing a pit of fire and chains swinging above it. He had to cross or be burned alive. Daniel stared at the impossible path, then at the warriors watching with hungry eyes. He laughed weakly. "I've seen worse. Like my high school gym class." He swung onto the first chain, nearly slipping, his arms burning with pain. Step by step, swing by swing, he made it across, his body shaking, his breath ragged. When he landed, barely alive, the crowd gasped, for no outsider had ever made it so far. Finally, the maze opened into the last chamber. There stood a figure, a reflection of himself, but twisted, with crimson eyes and a cruel grin. The shadow moved like him, fought like him, but with speed and power he could not match. It knocked him to the ground, its fists pounding into his chest. Daniel groaned, his vision blurring. But he whispered, "I am not fighting you. I am fighting me." He stopped resisting, letting the shadow strike, then laughed through the blood. "You can't break me, because I choose who I am." The shadow froze, its grin fading, and then it shattered like glass, leaving Daniel alone, broken but victorious. The hall shook, the mist faded, and Daniel staggered back into the circle of warriors, his clothes torn, his skin cut, his eyes fierce. The elders stared in silence, their crimson eyes wide. One finally spoke. "Impossible. A human, unarmed. Yet he stands." The crowd of warriors hissed, some furious, some awed. Silvara stepped forward, her face still calm, but her voice carried power. "He is worthy," she said, her crimson gaze fixed on Daniel. "By the path of shadows, by the trial of worthiness, he has proven himself." The hall erupted in shouts, some in agreement, others in rage. One warrior spat on the floor. "If he is worthy, then what are we?" Another growled, "He has bewitched our queen with weakness." But Silvara raised her blade, her voice cutting through the storm. "Silence, he did not win with power, but with spirit. And spirit is strength." Daniel leaned on the wall, his chest heaving, his grin tired but real. "So do I get a medal, or maybe just a sandwich?" he muttered. Silvara's lips twitched. almost into a smile, almost. She stepped close, her cloak brushing against him, her voice low enough only for him. You should be dead, and yet you live. You are either the luckiest fool in the galaxy, or the most dangerous man I have ever met. Daniel coughed, laughing weakly. Why not both? In that moment, the clash between human and alien was no longer just survival, it was transformation. Daniel had shown them a different way, not of blood but of choice, not of fear, but of spirit. And though many hated him, none could deny the truth. The human had passed the trial of worthiness, and Silvara, the Warbride, had begun to see him not as prey, but as something far more dangerous. The trial of worthiness had ended, yet the ship did not fall silent. Whispers moved through the halls like smoke. Sharp and dangerous, some warriors spat in anger, calling Daniel a trickster, a weakling who survived only by chance. Others whispered of his courage, his refusal to bow, his spirit that even shadows could not break. But far away in the void, more ships began to appear. Black as night and sharp as blades, Daniel stood on the balcony of Silvara's ship. His arm bandaged, his body sore, his heart heavy. The stars stretched around him like an endless sea, and in that sea he saw them. Dozens of dusk-born ships arriving one by one. Circling Earth like vultures, he felt his chest tighten. His home looked so small, so fragile, a blue jewel trapped between the jaws of monsters. Behind him, Silvara stepped close, her crimson eyes glowing with fire. They come for your world, she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of truth. They come because you survived, because you proved yourself. Now every Warbride hungers to claim what I have claimed. Daniel turned to her, anger flashing in his eyes. You mean they come to take Earth's men, to enslave my people, to turn us into weapons? Silvara's face was unreadable, her lips cold, but her silence was answer enough. Daniel's fists clenched, his voice breaking. Then stop them. You are their queen, their leader, tell them no. Silvara's cloak shifted in the windless air, her gaze distant. I am not their leader, she whispered. I am one among many. A Warbride holds power only as long as she is feared. If I refuse them, they will strike me down and Earth will burn anyway. Daniel stepped closer, his voice shaking with fury. So all your strength, all your ships, all your blades, and yet you are trapped by your own people. Her eyes narrowed, but not in anger, in pain. You do not understand. Human. Love is war, war is love, power is survival. Daniel shook his head, his voice steady. No, love is choice, and choice is freedom. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. The stars watching, the ship circling, then a horn echoed through the void. Deep and terrible, the sound of war. The other Warbrides had arrived, their voices filling the minds of every warrior. Silvara has claimed a human, and now Earth belongs to us all, they declared. The warriors on Silvara's ship roared in approval, their blades striking the floor in rhythm. A call for conquest, Daniel stepped forward, his voice rising above the noise. No, Earth belongs to Earth. You can't take us, we're not trophies, we're not weapons. The crowd laughed, their crimson eyes mocking him. Silvara raised her hand, silencing them, her voice calm but sharp. He is mine, not yours. By the ancient right I have claimed him, and none may take what belongs to me. The other Warbrides laughed across the void, their voices cruel. You have grown weak, Silvara. This human has poisoned you if you will not share. Then we will take by force, and Daniel's heart sank. Earth was on the edge of war. Billions of lives dangled like a candle before a storm. He looked at Silvara, her face hard, her eyes burning. Yet deep inside he saw doubt for the first time. He realized she was standing on the same edge as him, trapped between war and something else, something unspoken. Silvara, he whispered, you don't have to fight for them, you can fight for us. Her eyes locked on his, sharp as blades, yet trembling with something fragile. You speak of impossible things, she said softly. You ask me to turn against my own, to betray the only way my people have ever known. Daniel stepped closer, his voice steady, his words simple. Then let it start with you, one choice, one change. One Warbride who refuses war. Her lips parted, her breath sharp, and for the first time in centuries, Silvara felt fear, not of enemies, not of death, but of choice. The horn sounded again, the ships moved closer. Warriors prepared their blades. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Silvara turned to her people, her cloak snapping like thunder, her voice cold and commanding. No one touches the human. No one touches Earth, she declared. The hall shook with protest, warriors screaming, elders cursing, the other warbrides laughing like wolves in the night. But Silvara stood tall, her hand on her blade, her crimson eyes blazing. If war comes, then let it come, but I will not surrender what is mine. Daniel's heart raced. He knew the risk. He knew Earth was still in danger. But for the first time, he saw her not just as a monster, not just as a queen of shadows. He saw her as someone standing at the edge of change, someone who could either destroy him or save him. And in that moment, he whispered, maybe love is not war, maybe it's peace. Maybe it's the only thing stronger than fear. Silvara's gaze flickered, the mask of the warbride cracking for just an instant. She said nothing, but the silence itself was an answer. Because in that silence, the line between war and love began to blur. And the fate of Earth, the fate of the galaxy, hung on which side Silvara would choose. The galaxy stood on the edge of fire. Dozens of warbride ships circled Earth like hungry wolves, their crimson eyes glowing through the black windows of their warships. Inside Silvara's hall, warriors shouted, their voices clashing like steel, some calling for conquest, some calling for blood. Daniel stood in the center, his chest rising and falling, his heart pounding but his eyes refusing to drop. The other warbrides spoke across the void, their voices echoing like thunder. Silvara has been weakened, she has forgotten who she is. She has chosen love over war, and for this she will fall. The crowd roared. Blades clashed. The ship trembled with the hunger for battle. Silvara raised her hand, her cloak flowing like wings of shadow, her voice sharp as lightning. You speak of weakness, but it is you who are blind. This human has shown me strength that no blade could teach. The warriors gasped. The elders hissed, their crimson eyes wide with fury. Silvara stepped down into the circle, her eyes locked on Daniel, her face carved in iron. You are mine, she said loudly, her voice carrying through the hall. But not as a weapon, not as property, not as a slave. Her words cut through the crowd like fire through ice. You are mine because I choose you and because you choose me. The hall erupted in chaos. Warriors screaming in rage, elders striking the floor with their staffs. No warbride had ever spoken of choice. No warbride had ever called a mate equal. It was against their law, against their blood, against their very way of life. But Silvara stood tall, her crimson eyes blazing. Her blade raised, if any challenge me, then come forward, and I will show you the cost of your ignorance. For a moment, silence filled the hall, heavy as stone. Then one warbride warrior stepped forward, her blade long and burning with red light. She lunged at Silvara, their blades clashing, sparks flying, steel ringing like thunder. The battle shook the hall, the crowd screaming with every strike. Daniel watched, his fists clenched, every part of him wanting to run forward, but knowing he would only get in the way. Silvara fought like a storm, every movement sharp and deadly, her cloak spinning like fire. Her enemy was strong, but Silvara was stronger, not just with power, but with purpose. She struck once, twice, and the warrior fell, blood staining the floor. Silvara raised her blade high, her voice echoing, this human is not weakness, he is strength, and Earth will not fall to your hunger. The other warbrides howled across the void, furious yet uncertain. They had expected Silvara to bend, to bow, to join their feast. Instead, she had defied them, standing with a human, choosing love over conquest. Daniel stepped forward, his voice loud though his body shook. You came for blood, but all I have is hope, and you cannot drink that dry. Some laughed, others snarled, but for the first time, cracks spread through their certainty, because no matter how they hated him, they could not deny he had survived the path of shadows. He had faced their trials and lived, and now their strongest sister, Silvara, stood not above him. But beside him, it was unthinkable. It was madness, and yet it was real. Silvara turned to Daniel, her crimson eyes softening, her voice low. This is the moment, human. If I claim you now, it will not only bind us, it will declare to the galaxy that I reject their chains. Daniel looked into her eyes, his voice steady despite the storm around them. Then claim me, but not as your property, as your partner. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Sharp yet fragile, she raised her blade, not to his throat, but to the sky, her voice thunderous. By my blood, by my blade, by my choice, I claim this human not as a slave, but as my equal. The hall froze. The galaxy itself seemed to stop. No warbride had ever spoken such words. No warbride had ever broken tradition so completely. The elders screamed, some warriors howled. Others lowered their blades, uncertain, afraid. The other Warbride ships shifted in the void, their lights flickering, their voices hissing with rage. But Silvara stood unshaken, Daniel by her side. The storm of change burning around them, Daniel felt his chest tighten, not with fear, but with something else. For the first time since the joke by the fire, he realized what had truly happened. He had not just been claimed by a Warbride. He had changed one, and in changing her, he had changed the galaxy. The ships above Earth began to scatter, some leaving, others circling with hesitation. The balance of power was shifting. A seed had been planted, and no blade could cut it away. Silvara lowered her blade, her crimson eyes still blazing. "You are mine, Daniel," she said softly. "But more than that, I am yours," Daniel smiled. His lips bloody, his voice weak but strong. "I only wanted a wife, not an empire," the hall roared. Some in rage, some in disbelief, but others, just a few, in quiet respect. The first Warbride to ever laugh stood at the edge, whispering, "Perhaps." "This is the new way." Silvara wrapped her cloak around Daniel, not as chains but as shelter, and together, human and Warbride faced the stars. The galaxy had demanded war, but instead, it had been given something far more dangerous: love.